This is Commissioner's Corner, a series of programs produced at Radnor Studio 21 to keep residents informed about local government and about the people and events that shape the quality of life in our community. In the corner today is 6th Ward Commissioner Jake Abel.
Glad to be back.
Nice to see you again. Every time we visit, there's always something new to talk about. Regrettably, in too many instances, there's a lot of old stuff to talk about as well because the board hasn't moved on certain things. And so, as always, we speak candidly about these issues in the interest of getting as much truthful information out so people can make some decisions. And hopefully, and I know you share this wish, more people show up at the meetings to express their opinions and to see what's going on and how the township is using their money.
Yeah, I think that's important. But in addition to that, if they're not able to show up, these types of meetings or social media, as much information as we can push out and to be as transparent as possible, all the residents benefit.
All right. First thing on the docket today is the budget.
Sure.
Always a stressful time in this township and every place else. What's the outlook for 2019? How much are you guys going to dig into our pockets for this time?
Well, it's quite an experience being my first
yes, I'm sure.
First year going through this. What came out of Monday's meeting was, we do have a shortfall on expected revenue for 2019. The board voted on a party line vote. I did not support, but there's going to be a 6% millage increase, so residents will feel a little bit harder hit in the pockets. But
the board, I know, at least for the past couple of years, has taken pride in the fact that we haven't had an increase for, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years?
At least 3, maybe. Yeah.
What's different this year?
Well,
is it because they haven't increased it over the past few years, and so we have a shortfall?
No, well, we have we didn't receive as much from the business revenue tax as in previous years, and that's a 1 year occurrence. Maybe it's an anomaly. We'll see in 2019 if we receive more. And my position was that we should really use the first quarter of 2019 to put a strategic plan in place, and then we can really go back to the voters and say, if there needs to be an increase, this is why, and this is how we're using it.
Jake, you should know better than that. That makes too much sense.
Well,
why would we do that?
Well, I just think we jumped the gun a little bit on this increase.
Yeah. You didn't vote for it?
I did not vote for it.
What? You didn't vote for the number, or you didn't vote, or you wouldn't have voted for an increase at all?
Well, I didn't. No, I supported Commissioner Booker proposed having a flat, keeping the millage rate flat, and I supported that. Really, the crux of this was there was a, and the manager's proposal was to not raise the millage rate for this year, but the sticking point was there was a $1.2 million line item for OPEB, which is other post-retirement benefits,
medical and life benefits for retirees.
I thought we could push that off a year, which really has no impact on the payment of those benefits. Is
that pretty well funded?
No, it wasn't funded properly in the past. So there is a plan in place now to catch up. So we make good on it, and I can't remember the date, but it's years down the line. I didn't see any harm to pushing it one more year and using that $1.2 million to cover the revenue gap for this year, and that way we wouldn't have had to raise taxes.
Okay. Well, as they said, you have unreasonable expectations. That kind of logic, that kind of reasoning would be
well, hopefully we still look at 2019, that first quarter, to put a strategic plan in place. I think that's important, not only for the board, but for the residents.
How could there possibly be any resistance to that?
I don't think there will be.
Develop a strategic plan.
I don't think there will be. I think
has the board ever developed a true strategic plan?
They do have.
Or a 3-year rolling plan?
Yeah, they do have something on the books, a 5-year
they do.
Capital plan.
Does anybody pay attention to, well, a capital plan, I can understand that. But in terms of their recurring expenses, has the board the township ever had a strategic business plan?
That
I don't know.
And I'm not aware of. I know there's stuff on the books that people have looked at it, and CARFAC has looked at these issues in the past.
Yeah, again, like so many other cases in the for-profit Maybe people just don't pay attention to it once it's done.
Right.
It's done, we put it on the shelf, every once in a while somebody looks at it, and then we look at it at the end of the year and see how we did.
Well,
and then we do another one.
Yeah, well, we're a relatively young board, so this will hopefully
Yeah.
set the path for the next
There's
couple of years.
also going to be an increase in the sewer rental fee.
There is, and that goes back to last year's board. They had approved each year a 10% increase. So we came up, we voted on this. It passed again. Oh, this one passed 5-2. I did not support the sewer rate increase for two reasons. One, because we're doing a 6% millage rate increase, and two, I thought there was enough in the reserves where we could cover 2019, even if there was an emergency break emergency repair, and then we could again use 2019 as a.
Well, in addition to the 6% and the 10%, we still have that special assessment for stormwater, right? Flooding.
We do well. Yes, you'll still pay the fee for stormwater.
But there was a special fee, wasn't there, to create a fund?
Right. So you do have a fee that has not increased.
It has not.
The stormwater fee did not increase.
No, I thought there was a special assessment to build a reserve for stormwater.
And that was years back.
That was
3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll still have that, correct?
Okay.
But that's not increasing.
Yes, but is that now permanent? I thought it was a special assessment to build the fund, and that one day it would go away. I should have known better, but one day it would go away.
It'll go away if the board brings it forward.
Right.
But at this point, you're still paying it.
But in general, are you satisfied, based on your experience so far, and based on what you've seen in the books and so on, and your expectations for next year, are you generally satisfied that Radnor is in pretty good shape financially, fiscally?
Yes.
You are?
I believe we're in good shape.
Yeah, and again, at one point I thought the township took pride in the fact that comparatively we were in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and we still have, right now we're looking at close to $9 million in reserves. So, I think that might be a little too high. I would still like to be able to draw down on that and save residents from paying additional taxes.
One of your favorite topics is cell service or lack of.
Correct.
And a proposal you've come up with for a fix, a solution.
Well, possible solution. So just by happenstance, I ran into a technician from Crown Castle, which is in the business of doing cell towers and microcells. And over the last couple of weeks, we've driven around the areas in Ward 6 that have poor cell service. At the moment, they're working on a desktop an engineering plan to look at that area, the topography, and see how we can help the residents out. I think we're close to being able to present it, and as one of my last initiatives in 2018, I'd like to get the residents in those neighborhoods around the Willows together to present this plan.
Now, those are the towers. It's a telephone pole with an antenna at the top and a brown box attached to the pole.
Right.
I think that's what I've seen.
So currently in Radnor Township, we have 18 sites for microcells. And you're correct, they use the utility poles, and there's a brown box, and those brown boxes are what hold the carriers. And right now there's 2 carriers in these brown boxes. What will be proposed to the neighborhoods is something different. They would use the light fixtures in the neighborhoods with an antenna, and it's something that will have to be presented, and we really need to gauge the residents' interest. If it's something that they want to pursue, then we move forward.
The light fixtures, you mean the wiring in the house would be used as the antenna?
No, so like in Ravenscliff or Round Hill or Inverary, they have 6 or 7 light posts around the neighborhood.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So all the cables would be inside the light posts, and then the wires are run underground.
And that works? It's working now in other locations?
Yeah, they've had success in Princeton, which is what they would use as a similar model.
Is there an extra cost to the subscriber, to the user?
No, this is a fee that's picked up. I mean, all the costs would be picked up by Crown Castle. The township actually gets revenue from this based on.
And would it
carriers.
benefit all carriers? I mean, I have Verizon, somebody else has Comcast.
So this is another discussion that would be we would have to bring forward to the neighbors. So I believe they can hold up to 4 carriers. Right now they have 2, and I can't remember. Verizon's 1. I think T-Mobile or might be the second one, but AT&T is being discussed. So that's a discussion for the neighbors to have.
It's limited to 4, or can they broaden it to include more over time?
That would
the
be
technology.
Well, I mean, the technology grows
of course, yes.
all the time, so
Right.
that's something
Yeah.
that Crown Castle will be able to explain to the neighbors.
Would that also solve the problem in the Willows of not having signal for emergencies?
Well, so I've
Or is
always,
that a different problem?
Yeah, I've always broken this up into 2 issues: residents' cell service and then emergency communications.
Yes.
It would not address the emergency communications, and I will work with. We've tried to push this forward
Yes.
earlier this year with one of the subcommittees. They haven't been able to meet for the last couple months. I've had conversations with Delaware County Emergency Services, and I'm going to work with fellow commissioners early in 2019 to get another meeting on the books, so we can bring Delaware County in to help explain their current situation and how we can address that issue at the Willows.
Another of your favorite issues, particularly recently, has been stormwater and flooding and West Wayne Preserve.
Sure.
I know you've had some meetings out there.
Yep.
Current status?
Well,
I mean, we're expecting another deluge this weekend.
Yeah, and I'll be back out there
You'll have your
monitoring
boots
it.
on.
So, 2 things have happened over the last couple months. One, we had the big storm in August, followed by several
Yes.
smaller storms. What we're seeing is that we're getting more water down West Wayne Avenue, South Devon, and that water is going into neighbors' yards and sometimes into their basements. The second thing that's occurred is in recent weeks, the township, to try to relieve some of the flooding under the West Wayne bridge, the trail, they opened up a pipe, and that pipe is now introducing water that was currently being held,
Yes.
flooding the streets. It's coming into the West Wayne Preserve. And my goal is not to solve one problem and create a new problem for neighbors. So I've worked with the township. We've looked at a couple areas at the West Wayne Preserve, the Radnor, the dog park, the Friends of Radnor Trail, to try to use township-owned property for stormwater management, which will hopefully bring lower costs on projects, and to do something that's aesthetically pleasing for the residents.
Right.
We're not talking about digging. We're talking about building levees or dams in the creek, so when the water overflows, we're using the park to hold that water,
Yes.
and we're also improving water quality at that point.
So you wouldn't create a holding basin of any kind in the park?
Well, the basin is not
Right.
the idea here. We're trying to use, the park functions for stormwater management
Yes.
currently. We're trying to improve it, so to use the park itself to hold the stormwater. And there's other areas in that park that can help that we've identified.
And that would be, in your opinion, a permanent fix?
Well, I don't think anything's permanent, but
Okay.
it would hopefully help
It
solve.
takes some of the pain.
And it's not going to solve,
Yeah.
but let's be clear, it's not going to solve flooding. So that storm on August 13th was historic. I don't care whatever we do, we're still going to see water.
Yes. Nature being what it is,
Right.
yeah. Another topic is, I had an office at one point at one Radnor station. And from that vantage point, I could see the traffic heading towards the bridge on King Prussia Road.
Right.
And on more than one occasion, you would hear this horrific noise, look out the window, and then you'd see a bus, an 18-wheeler, or somebody who didn't quite make it, either because they weren't reading the sign,
Yeah.
or the pressure in the tires was too high or whatever. That continues to be a recurring problem. Most recently, I think there was a truck. I saw it happening when I was waiting for the train. And he just didn't quite make it. Held up traffic. It was terrible, terrible. Is there a solution to that problem?
Yeah.
Can the bridge be raised?
I don't.
Or the road lowered?
So I don't believe we
Or
can.
does everybody have to let pressure out of the tires in order to get into their bridge?
Yeah, this is a discussion that we're going to continue to have, and this is the second ward, and Commissioner Booker, one of his top priorities. But you're right. I mean, we continue to have these accidents, and fortunately, nobody's been hurt.
Yes.
My big concern for that area is right now the Jersey barriers create a pedestrian walkway under that bridge, and I've asked the township to remove that walkway because there's no reason. We know there continues to be accidents in that area. Why
Yes.
are we allowing people to walk through there? We're inviting something to happen.
Yes.
So I would like to see that walkway removed and force pedestrians to look at other ways to get around.
Is that a township problem, or is that a SEPTA problem, or is that a state problem, PennDOT?
All the above.
All of the, we have a piece of it, Radnor Township?
Well, I mean, the fact that it's our residents that are going through there.
We don't own it, we don't maintain it.
Right, we don't own or maintain.
Nor could we repair it.
Correct.
So we have to rely on others to get the job done.
We do.
And that could take a very long time.
It has taken a very long time,
Yes,
and we've gotten nowhere. And I applaud the township for continuing to push this with state officials and the other property owners that have a stake in this. I would like to see more movement, but at the very least, I think we need to get that walkway out.
But what is the fix? Is the fix raise? You can't, or can you? Can you raise the bridge?
It would be several. I mean, it would
sure,
be expensive.
Whatever you do is going to be
Right.
expensive.
Right.
And it's also very narrow.
It is, and so I mean, the easiest solution, or that's not a solution, but the easiest thing to do right now, I think we need better signage.
Yeah, you're right. We do. Civility. But before we get to that, though, I saw something in your most recent newsletter about Curb the Clutter.
Yes.
A program I hadn't heard about before. What's that all about?
Curb My Clutter is it's a for-profit company based out of New Jersey, and what they do is they come and pick up electronics and clothing for recycling. I had a neighbor approach me one day, and she said she had heard that Lower Merion had partnered with this group, and she knew people, and it was running rather effectively. And I thought this was a good way. I have a lot of residents who ask when they can recycle their electronic equipment, and we only do it once a year, so people are holding on to electronics for the whole year. And this would be a way that we could have electronic recycling any time of year, and it benefits the residents. The clothing part of that became the sticking point, because people had the belief that if you were recycling clothing, you're not giving to charities, and that's to me that's not the case. My wife and I we have Purple Heart come by probably once a month, once a quarter to pick up our clothing so we can make sure it's being used appropriately. I see Curb My Clutter as taking the clothing that you're not using or not going to recycle, so your gym clothes, your kids' socks that you're not going to give to anyone else because they're not worn anymore, they have holes all throughout them, but you're still throwing those away, and those are ending up in our landfills. This is a way to recycle the clothing and keep our landfills free from this.
What
materials.
do they do with the electronics and the used clothing?
They bulk it and they sell it. So for the clothing, they sell it bulk to companies. They give the example that a lot of times that clothing is used to make the insulation of your car.
Oh, I see.
So it's used for other things, but the important thing is it's not in our landfills.
So will we have the program?
The program was approved by the board. The last I heard from the company, they were hoping to have it up and running by December, and that information will all be put on the township website so neighbors know how to use it.
And it's going to be township-wide? There won't be a pilot to test it?
Nope.
Okay, good.
So it's township-wide. The pilot is township-wide.
Yes.
So it's a year-long pilot.
Okay. And it doesn't cost the township anything? It doesn't cost me anything?
It costs the township zero.
Right.
It actually saves the township money from having to pay to recycle the materials, and then we also get 10% back on the goods.
Everybody wins?
That's the way I saw it.
Everybody wins. And that's your program, that's your recommendation.
I give credit to the residents, the informed residents who brought it
and
forward.
And Lower Merion, yeah.
Yeah, and Lower Merion.
All right, now let's talk about civility. Not a new topic, the civility at the board level as well as the people who attend the meetings and get up and speak on behalf of themselves or some other cause. What's your concern? What's the issue there? Is it getting worse?
Well, we spent a lot of time in January, and the 2017 campaign was all about civility on the board.
Yes.
And there was a big push and a lot of talk about having the board be more civil. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the results of that. If you watched the last meeting on Monday, you saw a board member, commissioners interrupting each other and a lot of yelling back and forth. And that benefits nobody. We should be able to be up there and have discussions, sometimes where we don't agree, but be able to have a back and forth.
But isn't it the responsibility of the president to control that?
Well, yeah, as the president of the board.
She's got a gavel.
She
Use
does.
it.
She does. Well, I mean, you have to use it, in my mind, you have to use it fairly and consistently.
Yes.
So if you allow one person to interrupt, you're going to have everybody interrupt.
I understand.
But more importantly, on issues where we limit residents to 5 minutes at the podium to talk, that's sometimes not enough on these big issues that will have an impact for years to come. So, they vote a commissioner in to be able to ask tough questions, and those questions may go longer than 5 minutes. So I believe commissioners have a right, and if they have questions, they should be given the leeway to ask those questions uninterrupted, because those the commissioner's asking for his to build his decision,
Right.
but he's also asking so residents are informed and they understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Has there been any discussion about fixing the problem going into the new year?
There has been no discussion at this time.
Are they even aware that there is a problem?
I'm not aware of that.
You're not aware of that?
No.
They're perfectly happy with
Well,
that?
if you watch-
with the circus they have up there twice a month?
Well, everybody should be required to watch Monday's meeting.
Yeah.
And I think it would be
No,
quite clear.
I'm not sure that would be very productive. I won't go there. I've attended several meetings, as you know, particularly when the Willows was
Sure.
was front and center, and I couldn't get over the behavior of the commissioners at that time. And to your point, I'm not sure it's gotten much better.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we just need to do a better job policing ourselves and just being conscious of how we look on.
On the one hand, all of you, regardless of party affiliation, you all put in a lot of time. You really do. I know you do, and I know the others do as well. They get out in the community, they meet with people, they try to be helpful, they do all the things that you would expect a public official to do. But then when they get up there on that dais, and you can just feel that there's some posturing going on, there's positioning, they've already decided what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, who they're going to list. That's what drives me crazy. And it is so transparent.
Right.
I mean, who do they think they're kidding?
Well, I dealt with this a lot in a previous life when I worked for House Intel. We would do a lot of our work, because of the nature of the information in
committee,
in a SCIF, where not a public setting.
Yes.
But then sometimes we would bring those discussions out and have a public meeting, and so members would act differently in public than they would behind.
Yes.
You get a lot more done behind when you don't have
Sure.
to posture for certain positions.
We continue to hope. Anything else you'd like to talk about as we close out the year and look forward to a brand new opportunity?
Well, so we're going to close out hopefully on a strong note. As I mentioned, we're going to have a town hall meeting on the
We is the 6th Ward.
6th Ward. Well, I mean, my town hall meetings are open to any resident, and I let residents know. We're specifically looking at Ward 6 issues, but say cell service.
Yes,
while we're
of course.
focusing on Ward 6, other areas in the township have these issues.
Yes.
So if they can get some information and help them out, feel free to come and listen. So we'll hopefully, we're planning to do that on December 19th, and then a week before, on December 12th, we're going to have another town hall meeting looking at Morse Road and the street tree plan.
Where are you planning to have these meetings on December the 12th and 19th?
So December 12th will be at the Township Building, 7 p.m., and December 19th, also 7 p.m., and that location is still being discussed.
You put out an email on that?
So residents in the impacted areas will receive a letter from the township, and then I'll also post it in my newsletter and on social media.
Well, it's been an interesting year for you, your first year up on the bench, a productive one. You brought, I think, a lot of fresh ideas to the board, and I hope you'll continue to do that as we go into the new year. You know more now, you're more experienced. I'm sure you've built good relationships with your peers on the board. Hopefully those relationships will produce more than we've been able to get out of the board up to now.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on a good year.
Thank you.
And happy holidays.
You as
Merry
well.
Christmas.
You as well.
Thank you. This has been Commissioner's Corner with 6th Ward Commissioner Jake Abel, who is just completing his first year on the rough and tumble Radnor Township Board of Commissioners. Until next time, I'm Rick Anthony. Take very good care of yourselves